911. What is your emergency?
It's Mr. Luan. The crocodiles, they pulled him under. There's blood everywhere, they're still attacking.
What's your location?
No! He's gone! They're tearing him apart! Please! Please send someone! They won't stop!
In a small village, a cat named Whiskers discovered a magic fish in a pond. The fish promised 3 wishes in exchange for its freedom. Whiskers wished for endless fish, a cozy bed, and a bell that rang softly. The fish granted all 3 wishes, and swam away, leaving Whiskers content and purring in the sun. In a quiet corner of Cambodia, tucked away from the bustle of city life, there was a crocodile farm. The man behind it, Luan Nam, had dedicated years of his life to raising and managing these fierce reptiles. To many locals, he was an eccentric but passionate figure. To others, he was a man risking too much for a dangerous dream. But to the crocodiles he raised, Luan Nam was both a provider and an intruder. Luan Nam started his farm with a dream of economic freedom and conservation. Crocodile farming had the potential to be both profitable and sustainable. He began with a few young crocodiles, feeding them, caring for them, learning their behavior. Over time, his collection grew to 40 adult crocodiles, each several meters long, with jaws that could crush bone with a single bite. These weren't pets. They were ancient predators with instincts, sharp and deadly. He often boasted that he knew every crocodile on his farm. He said he could tell them apart by their movements, the glint in their eyes, or the sound they made when they slid into the water. Friends and family advised him to hire more staff, to stay behind barriers, to never be alone in the enclosure. But Luan dismissed these warnings with a confident wave of his hand. He believed he had earned their trust, and they had accepted him into their world. On a humid morning in June, the sky was heavy with dark clouds, and the air carried the weight of an impending storm. Luan, as was his routine, entered the main enclosure to inspect the surroundings. He noticed one crocodile, behaving oddly, perhaps sick or wounded. Concerned, he stepped closer, trying to coax it toward the corner of the pool. What he didn't notice was how the others had begun to move. Slowly, silently. In the world of crocodiles, stillness is a weapon. They wait for the perfect moment to strike. And on that morning, the stillness broke with terrifying speed. One crocodile lunged, then another. Within seconds, the entire group was in a frenzy. The sounds of water splashing, powerful jaws snapping, and Luan's desperate cries echoed across the farm. He tried to escape, but 40 crocodiles formed a circle around him. There was no way out. Farm workers heard the commotion and rushed to the scene, but they were too late. The sight that met them was horrifying. What remained of Luan Nam was barely recognizable. The crocodiles, now calm, floated in the murky water, their hunger satisfied, their stillness returned. The authorities arrived later that afternoon. Investigations were launched. Some questioned the safety protocols at the farm. Others debated whether crocodile farming should even be allowed. But the story had already spread. News outlets called it a freak accident. Online forums debated the details. Was it really an accident? Or had the crocodiles finally acted on instincts, long suppressed? Those who knew Luan Nam remembered him as a brave, if reckless, man. He had loved his crocodiles, perhaps too much. He had treated them with respect, but also with a certain arrogance. In trying to be one of them, he forgot one crucial truth. A crocodile may recognize its feeder, but it never forgets it is a predator. The farm was shut down in the following weeks. The crocodiles were relocated, though their fate remains unclear. Some were sent to sanctuaries, others possibly to other farms. The enclosure where Luan died was sealed off, a silent memorial to a man who had believed he could tame the untamable. Locals still talk about him. Some say they hear strange sounds at night coming from the abandoned farm. Others say they avoid the area altogether. Children dare each other to sneak past the locked gates. The memory of Luan Nam lives on, not as a hero or a victim, but as a reminder. Nature can be nurtured, studied, admired, even temporarily contained, but it cannot be conquered. Luan Nam's story is not just about crocodiles. It is about the limits of control, the illusion of safety, and the thin line between man and beast. He crossed that line believing he was immune to the rules that govern wild creatures. In the end, nature proved him wrong. He fed them, he raised them, he loved them, but on that rainy morning they reminded him, and the world, who they really were. The predators. And they never forget. But the aftermath of Luan Nam's tragic end didn't just stay confined to the borders of his quiet Cambodian village. The global media took notice. Images of the blood-stained enclosure and aerial footage of the crocodile farm ran across major news channels. Wildlife activists used the incident to highlight the dangers of exotic animal farming, while others focused on the psychological toll such isolation can bring to people who live closely with wild creatures. Several international zoologists stepped in to analyze the behavior of the crocodiles. One expert, Dr. Myra Solange remarked in an interview that while crocodiles do not typically act in coordinated attacks, the unusual behavior observed in Luan's case hinted at something more complex. Some believed it was stress. Others believed it was instinct. A few even speculated about the possibility of cognitive association, the crocodiles identifying Luan not as a threat, but as prey. There were reports that Luan had been working excessively for weeks, hardly sleeping, and skipping meals. Neighbors recalled how he had stopped attending community meetings, and workers said he had become increasingly withdrawn. Whether it was obsession, loneliness, or simply fatigue, the line between caution and recklessness had blurred. One chilling detail that surfaced later came from a former employee who had left the farm months before the incident. According to him, Luan had once tried to conduct a feeding session from within the enclosure itself, claiming he wanted to build trust. The staff had been alarmed and objected, but Luan insisted he believed the crocodiles saw him differently. That belief would cost him everything. A memorial was eventually held in the village temple. Despite the fear the incident stirred, many locals attended to pay their respects. Luan was remembered as someone who dared to live life on his own terms, a quiet man who found comfort among creatures others feared. His ashes were scattered along the riverbank where he used to sit and sketch ideas for expanding his farm. In the weeks that followed, crocodile farms across the country were put under scrutiny. Some were shut down for violations, others were forced to improve their safety standards. Luan Nam's death had become a case study in wildlife management, a cautionary tale told in classrooms and documentaries. But what truly remained was the lingering question: did the crocodiles remember him as a feeder, or did they always see him as prey waiting to make one fatal mistake? The truth, like the depths of the murky enclosure, may never fully come to light. Yet the message is clear. No matter how deep the bond may seem, some instincts cannot be erased. In the wild, survival is not about friendship. It is about power, dominance, and the natural order of life. And in that moment of chaos, the crocodiles acted not with hate or revenge, but with the pure, cold instinct of predators. Years later, a documentary crew visited the abandoned site. Vines had grown over the cages. The pool was filled with rainwater and algae. The only sound was the wind. They filmed silently, capturing the eerie stillness of a place that once echoed with life and tragedy. The crew didn't speak much. The atmosphere demanded reverence. Even in ruin, the site commanded fear. The documentary aired under the title The Man Who Trusted Crocodiles and won several awards for its haunting portrayal of trust, delusion, and the boundary between man and beast. Interviews with locals, old footage of Luan feeding his reptiles, and expert commentary painted a complete picture of a man who tried to live in harmony with creatures that understood only dominance. Luan Nam's name now stands as both a warning and a legacy. To those who seek to control the wild, it reminds them that control is only an illusion. And to those who love animals, it shows the importance of understanding where empathy ends and respect begins. What happened in that enclosure wasn't just an accident, it was a convergence of arrogance, fatigue, and nature's unwavering code. And in the end, it left behind a story that chills the spine, shakes the soul, and forces us to reconsider how far we should go when walking among predators. They were not evil, they were not cruel. They were simply what they have always been, predators, and they never forget.